I made you eat your parents.
Today, we're talking about the most evil characters in fiction. We're going to go over some characters that I personally feel are the worst of the worst. Each one of these characters deserve a special little place in hell. These are characters you think your lucky stars are only fictional, but still can't help but wonder what would happen if they weren't. If you think that there are characters that deserve to be on this list, whether from movies, animes, or greater fiction, please put that in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and with all that out of the way, let's get straight into it. Eric Cartman. Now, a lot of people downplay South Park and its brutality for many reasons, including how frequently they happen and its art style, but that doesn't stop me from seeing him for the oversized little ball of evil that he is. Cartman has no empathy, and to him, everyone and everything around exists as tools for the sole purpose of his personal gain. For you to understand how evil of a character this person is, you simply have to think of literally any villain in fiction. Anything the character you think of has done, Cartman has the ability and the will to do the same thing or worse. I mean, exaggerated casualty is pretty much the point of the show. Now, I don't want to spend so long on one character, so if you want to see a separate video of any of them, please let me know in the comments. Anyhow, while there are way too many incidents to pick from, there is one that always stands out among others: the Scott Tenorman incident. So Scott tricks Cartman into buying pubes for 16 bucks. And of course, Cartman can't let that slide, so he tries his usual shenanigans in an attempt to get his money back. But Scott keeps outsmarting him and rubbing it in his face. Now, the thing is, Cartman can be smart when he wants to be. I mean, he literally manipulated Cthulhu, an extra-dimensional entity, just because he was kicked out of his playgroup. But that's besides the point. Obviously pissed off at the ginger scum, Cartman goes on to manipulate a farmer into thinking that Scott's parents were trespassers, which leads to them getting shot and killed. Cartman then decides to steal their corpses, grind them into minced meat, and adds them to a bowl of chili. That bowl is then presented in a community cook-off, which Scott was invited to. Once Scott takes a few bites, Cartman, in his Cartman ways, proudly reveals the origin of the meal to a now devastated Scott, who then begins to cry in terror. Cartman then goes up to him to lick his tears with pure satisfaction. Even Scott looked confused at the depravity, and he did all this because his ego was bruised. What makes things crazier is that Cartman did not know who his father was at this time, and it just so happens that one of the parents he ground up was his biological father. After finding this out, Cartman then starts crying, but not even because he murdered his father and desecrated his body. It was because his relation to Tenorman made him half ginger.
My dad was a ginger.
You killed your own dad, and you're worried about that?
Come on, cheer up. Cheer up, I'm half ginger. Yeah, but you're forgetting. You're also half Denver Bronco. That makes you pretty cool. That does make me pretty cool.
You gotta be kidding me!
He's racist, sexist, anti-Semitic, and just everything you can think of bundled in one 3-foot imp. So the thought of him being ginger was just too much to handle. Now, we all know there's a whole lot more we could say about Cartman. But to spitball a few more, he organized and televised live fights between crack-addicted infants to generate millions of dollars in video revenue. He also formed a successful Christian band that sold millions of copies while fooling millions of Christians, all because of a $10 bet. Obviously, I can't list everything he has done in one video, as this really is the tip of the iceberg, but the point still stands. Cartman might be the most evil fictional character because he will do anything possible to get what he wants without really thinking much about it. Even though he's only killed about 10 people directly, he's still responsible for much more, ranging from the hundreds, the thousands, to possibly millions. And that said, he does carry the show in my opinion, and is one of the funniest, if not the funniest character in the show. So there's that. Judge Holden. The judge, the one who never sleeps, the great hairless thing, all monikers that try but ultimately fail to fully represent the evil that is the judge. Have you ever watched or read something and been like, wow, that was scary, at least it's not real? That is something I feel like you can't say when it comes to the judge. This is a being so depraved and vile that people in real life are legitimately scared of him and gave him the most appropriate nickname in The Devil. Now, for this segment, I would be going over him as a character rather than what he did unlike the imp before. For those of you who may not know who this character is, he is the main antagonist of the critically acclaimed novel Blood Meridian. It is widely seen as one of the best pieces of literature of the 20th century, and it was written by Cormac McCarthy, the same genius behind No Country for Old Men. The judge is a 7-foot-tall hired killer and hunts for people's scalps. But apart from his menacing stature, he also possesses high levels of intelligence, as he is a very educated man who speaks multiple languages, understands chemistry, and plays music. So, together with his terrifying build, he uses his big brain to justify or rationalize extreme levels of violence and depraved acts. He doesn't even kill for simple profit. In fact, he hates that. He believes that violence is the most basic truth of the universe, and even went on to say that war is God. Like many villains, he believes rules and morals are constructs created by weak people to stop the strong from taking over. Humans were born to play games, and that a game only matters if you risk losing something valuable. Based on this trail of thought, he views war as the perfect game because the players are betting their lives, like a coin toss. He believes the universe would choose who lives and who dies, and since it's basically the universe forcing a choice, the judge believes that the winner is justified in surviving, and the loser is simply erased from existence. So you can see that by viewing lives as nothing more than chips, he removes all guilt from murder, and therefore has no regard for the suffering of others because he believes that if he kills someone, it was simply the will of the universe. I'm sure people who remember Anton Chigurh are already drawing parallels, but while they are very similar and were written by the genius that is McCarthy, there are very steep differences between the two. So if you'd like to see a video on that, let me know. Anyhow, clearly the judge is evil, but truly drives his evil is his obsessive need for control. As he travels through the desert, he carries a sketchbook which he uses to draw anything he finds interesting. However, once he has finished drawing it and completely understands it, he often destroys the original object. He explains this behavior is like this: "Whatever in creation exists without my knowledge exists without my consent." The judge believes that knowledge is a weapon. So if something exists in the world that he does not understand, it means there is a part of the world that he does not control. The book is naturally violent, but to state a few atrocities, he lures children of both genders, has his way with them, and then breaks their necks and leaves their bodies without any regard. He tricked a relatively peaceful gang into letting them think he surrendered only to brutally murder all of them, including babies, and in his very first appearance, he manipulates the town against a preacher by telling a very convincing lie about him, making them kick the preacher out just for a laugh. The ending, though, is a culmination of depravity, violence, and pure evil that makes you fully understand what the judge is. I'd rather not spoil it for those who want to read it, but I will say this. There is a reason Blood Meridian has not been adapted to a movie, despite it being very highly regarded by almost everyone that reads it. Judge is a creature that is what I would say is terror itself. Unavoidable, ever-present, and seemingly unkillable. The Coup. One of the most annoying types of evil are those where the doer really thinks they are doing something for the greater good. Don't get me wrong, I know there are a lot of characters that embody the role perfectly, but there are just a lot of scenarios that are pretty annoying in hindsight. So, the Coup are a galactic hive mind that moves from one part of the universe to another with the ideology that they are the chosen species. I'm sure you can already see how things could spiral from here. With that belief in mind, they set out on a mission to remake the universe and alter all organic life to a way that fits their version. So when they see the Star People, they get deeply offended. In short, the Star People are a species that formed from a war between Earth and Mars and then used genetic engineering to adapt. They later conquered the Milky Way and spread across billions of star systems. While that may sound like a good thing to regular people, the Coup weren't having that shit. I mean, who are these puny creatures who think they could just genetically modify their bodies and hope to explore the stars? That's an insult to our religious mission. How dare they? Anyhow, seeing this disrespect, the coup decided to take action and morph the Star People into their desired form. For the majority of planets that surrendered quickly or didn't fight back, they were turned into different animal-like creatures like worms, mantelopes, and other variety of pets. If they were interesting, they'd turn them into instruments or art, and if they were just nothing to the coup, well, they'd turn them into animals for repopulating the food chain. Some were luckier than the rest in the sense that they eventually were allowed to lose their consciousness, but either way, it was definitely a better fate than those who rebelled. For the colonials who actually fought back, their fate was one worse than death, some might say. They were turned into square, stationary blocks of living flesh and were used as waste filtration units. Worse than that, they retained their full human awareness and spent generations in agonizing consciousness, fully aware of what they used to be and what was happening to them. And as if it couldn't get any worse, they were left in this distorted form for literally millions of years. They did eventually evolve and all, but that's besides the point. Millions of years? We're barely living in the hundreds, and people are going crazy. The main reason I put them in this video before some other characters that would have been preferred is simply to address the ridiculous notion that this hive mind isn't actually evil. Now, as ludicrous as this may sound to some of you, a shocking amount of people actually think that the religious drivel such as this doesn't make the coup evil. Basically because they don't commit these insane acts with the conventional villain mindset. People drastically downplay the actions of these goobers. If a serial killer or literally any human did even a fraction of what the coup did, whether for religion or not, they would literally get infinite life sentences. Another thing I think is a misconception by such people is the thought the coup were neutral based on their lack of empathy. For anyone paying attention, this clearly isn't true as they set different punishments based on resistance and ultimately malice. In fact, the mindset itself that makes them think that they are the sculptors and not just the civilization or observers makes it even more obvious that these guys are not the neutral higher beings they claim to be, but rather are self-righteous and arrogant zealots who believe it's their way or no way. And there you have it, my first draft for the most evil characters in fiction. I know that there are more characters that could have been added to this list, but this was just the first batch. More videos like this would be coming soon. By the way, for the Cartman part, I definitely think he's inherently evil as the coup. The judge is more like a force of nature, but I kid you not, Cartman could do what the coup did if he actually wanted to. That said, the newer seasons of South Park have nerfed him quite a bit, so take that for what you will. But yeah, that's going to be it for the video. If you liked the video, please consider leaving a like, commenting, and subscribing. We just crossed 300 subs, and I appreciate the love y'all have been giving. If you want to see more content like this, or if you have any topic you feel will be interesting, drop it in the comments or community posts. And with all of that out of the way, I will see you guys in the next one.